Hello, 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 and welcome to another fantastic episode of Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion. Before we get started, let me first remind you that we are covered by the BIPCOT No Government License, which allows for the use and reuse of this podcast by anyone and everyone except for the government and the bludgies thereof. You can learn more about that at bipcot.org. That is BIPCOT.org. We're also protected by Brandenburg v. Ohio, 1969, which ruled that the government cannot punish inflammatory speech unless that speech is, quote, directed to inciting or producing imminent lawless action and is likely to incite or produce such action. Therefore, everything said here on Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion is entirely hypothetical.
And we need people to actually listen to us in order to be likely to incite and produce any such action anyway.
Like if you're listening to this, or if you're watching us on YouTube and you take us seriously, bro, just
man.
We're like, I don't know, we're not even like the Special Olympics of podcasting. We're like the people that didn't even qualify for the Special Olympics of podcasting.
Well, that's what Lindsay always laughs about. She's like, they keep following you, and she's like, and it just, why? What do they think you're going to do? What are they under the impression they're going to catch you doing? Like, oh, look, he went to work today. Oh, look, he came home today. And that's the same thing every fucking day. Occasionally I go to the liquor store. Ooh, boy, that was exciting. Like, what are you hoping for, man?
Most boring anarchists ever.
Yeah, like, ooh, yeah, I don't even bother to like make Molotov cocktails, man. It's like, it'd be a waste of perfectly good liquor as far as I'm concerned. And if you're trying to put gasoline in it, like, I need that gas for my truck. It gets 9.5 miles per gallon. I ain't wasting that.
Which is, that's a beast of a truck too, though.
So. I have a great big sticker on the back now that says global warmer, and it's really fun to watch people in Priuses glare at me.
Nice.
Just like, yeah, that's right. All that carbon you're taking out of the air, I'm putting right back into it. Enjoy. Because power.
Because horsepower over your feels.
Yep. Because and it's freaking loud. So, like, even, like, there's been a couple of times this winter where, like, Lindsay went out to move the cars, and I could tell when she'd start the truck because from inside the house, I can hear go, I'm like, I bet my neighbors love me.
Speaking of truck, you want to talk about a Hummer real quick? Or a Hummer. NYPD confiscates scary T-shirt gun mounted to rapper's Hummer.
Are you kidding me?
Yes. NYPD confiscates scary T-shirt gun mounted to rapper's Hummer. There, I knew I could say
it. How now, brown cow? The arsonist has oddly shaped feet.
Yes. Yeah, so the article says maybe he's humming a different tune now. A rapper and fashion mogul out of Philly found out on the streets of New York there are no place for a Hummer with a roof-mounted long gun, even if it's just an air rifle that shoots promo T-shirts.
Oh boy, thank God the NYPD is keeping us safe from promotional T-shirts.
Christopher Stoney, 41, was driving a 2006 Hummer along 9th Avenue near West 34th Street in Manhattan Saturday afternoon when the vehicle's massive 4-foot-long air rifle somehow caught the eye of the cops. The officers also took note of the designs plastered on the side of the military green vehicle, a trio of yellow bullets, and the words "War Child" and "Wardrobe." Yes.
So.
Yes.
Hold
on. The NYPD pulled a Hummer over at West 16th Street, where Stoney, who had 2 passengers, told them Wardrobe is his clothing company. It's a company-owned vehicle, he explained, which launches T-shirts during promotional events. Unmoved, cops hauled Stoney, a New Jersey resident, and the passengers to Midtown South Precinct, where he was ticketed for unlawful possession of an air rifle.
It doesn't even shoot actual projectiles. It fires T-shirts at people intentionally, which means it doesn't shoot them very hard. But I mean, it's like these cops had to look at this vehicle look at that t-shirt launcher and then go, I think that's a weapon. You had to honestly believe that someone was driving through New York City with a 4-foot-long weapon mounted on the top of their car. Now, if you are a person who does that, wow, man, like, more power to you. I don't know how you walk with balls that big, but all right.
If you are that person, hey, hit me up.
Yeah,
we can talk.
Yeah, I have a business proposition.
It does not look like a gun.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, it's scary and it's black. I get it, but come on.
Like, if anything, you thought that was a rocket launcher, and if you think that someone's going to drive around New York City with a rocket launcher on the top of their vehicle, you're even more insane.
And to make matters worse, the NYPD confiscated the cannon off the truck and vouchered it as evidence.
I'm pretty sure that he should be able to, because I would guess, and I don't know, because I don't know New York gun law that well. I would
if it's a firearm, it's a no.
Yeah, basically. I mean, like, I know that about New York, but I would bet you that the law probably defines an air rifle, and it probably does not match that definition.
Yeah. I mean, ticketed for unlawful possession of an air rifle in the land of the free.
Land of the free. Yeah. And you risk going to, you get fined, you get extorted money, and have your property taken for having a t-shirt launcher.
Promotional t-shirt launcher.
Yeah. On a company vehicle. Oh my God.
I just
like, what possesses you? You know what it's got to be, though, because I don't actually believe that they thought that was some sort of gun. I don't think that they thought that was some sort of rocket launcher, that it could hurt anybody. I think they're just trying to flex their authoritarian muscle on him because he's dared to drive around with something that even looked remotely gun-like.
Yeah, a long black cylindrical tube.
Woo! I mean, well, and I can remember, the irony is that's in the land of the free. And I can remember a bunch of Americans being up in arms when I posted an article a few years ago about a guy who was wearing an Aryan t-shirt in Ireland. It's the Irish Republican Army. And he was wearing that, and he got beaten and arrested for it. Because there are laws in Ireland against openly advocating for terrorist groups. So, and all these Americans were up in arms and like, yeah, see, that's Europe. That's what happens when you give up your guns. Okay, this dude had a t-shirt launcher, and he was just extorted for money in the United States.
And people think that this country should stay together and that secession is a bad idea.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's roll with that. Let's jump into that other article early, and let's do this one. The Reason Magazine has an article. More than a dozen states are trying to nullify federal gun control. Right. So this is with President Joe Biden issuing a flurry of executive actions last week to strengthen the federal gun laws, state representatives across the country are working in the opposite direction, taking a page from the playbook of immigration activists by advancing legislation that would make enforcement illegal. On April 6, Arizona Governor Doug Ducey, a Republican, signed the first gun control nullification bill into law. Quote, nullifying unconstitutional federal laws is both legal and it's also the right thing to do, said Anthony Sabati, Republican lawmaker, member of the Florida House of Representatives. Quote, it's silly to sit around and wait for something you know is unconstitutional, he tells Reason. Quote, it's time to stand up and fight back, and the methods that we need to use are the ones already being used by the left. Can't argue against that.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well fight fire with fire.
Mm-hmm. Article goes on. In 1987, Oregon passed a law prohibiting state and local law enforcement from using public resources to arrest or detain people whose only crime was being in the country illegally. Since then, hundreds of other jurisdictions have passed similar laws, becoming so-called sanctuary cities. Conservative activists are employing the same strategy. While Arizona is the only state where such a bill became law, elected officials have introduced similar bills in more than a dozen state houses. Montana's legislature has approved a bill that is now awaiting signature or veto from the governor, which I think he signed. The Arkansas State Senate and the Missouri, South Carolina, and West Virginia houses have each passed such bills. Texas, Alabama, and New Hampshire have bills that are moving forward with state legislature. I think Texas signed theirs. I think.
Yep. I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah, and then also Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, Minnesota, Ohio, Nebraska, Iowa, Louisiana, and Wisconsin, which is left out of this, as of like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Wisconsin also has a bill that's been introduced to the state Senate to become a Second Amendment sanctuary. I think that's mostly because, we have Illinois directly to our south. So we got Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota. Like, we're kind of looking at these guys going, yeah. The irony is that Minnesota is pretty left. I think we can all tell that. And yet they actually had concealed carry before Wisconsin did.
That's nice.
It's just kind of weird.
See, there's also not mentioned in this article is there's laws in Wyoming and Montana, the Firearms Freedom Act. There's a Wyoming Firearms Freedom Act and Montana Firearms Freedom Act, which says that firearms produced in that state, and as long as they stay in that state, are not subject to federal gun control laws.
Didn't Kentucky do something?
Kansas also has. Kansas has one. Also has the same law, and they failed to use it to back a guy up.
When he was arrested for the suppressors.
Yeah, we talked about that last year sometime. So I don't know the enforcement of that or how legitly viable it is, but my point is the whole reason for bringing this up is they'll say federal gun control laws, right? Can't be or state money can't be used to enforce federal gun control laws. I mean, that goes back to what, the NFA, background checks, the
whole FFL system,
suppressors.
And the suppressors, and there's, of course, now the Democrats have introduced a bill to ban suppressors outright.
Federally, yeah.
And what's funny about that is that again, as I've brought up before, I don't know if I've actually brought up in the show. I know I have on Facebook, but it is a really unique to America thing, a concern over suppressors. Very, very unique to America. Same with concern over SBR, short-barreled rifles, and SBSs, short-barreled shotguns. This is a uniquely American thing, and it centers around this idea that, back in 1934, they were concerned that communist assassins were going to be running around America, and so they would be able to conceal these weapons if they were too small, and then use suppressors so no one would hear the shots, even though they didn't know how a suppressor fucking works. And they, and so they started pushing for it, and that all got added into the NFA. If I go right now, and I'm going to blow people's minds here, if I go into a gun store in Germany, or France, or Austria, or, Switzerland's kind of a bad example because they're generally, up until very recently, extremely pro-gun. But I can go into most countries in Europe, walk into a gun store with cash in my hand, and without having shown an ID or any waiting period or background check or anything, I can go buy a suppressor in that store and walk out with it. Right now. In countries that have these super draconian gun laws, and they still weren't worried about suppressors. In fact, Czechoslovakia has a law in the books that gun stores are required to recommend you buy suppressors with every gun purchase. Former Czechoslovakia, Czech Republic. Yeah, it's a hearing safety device.
Safety device.
Yeah, and they recommend that you buy them. They're required by law to be like, hey, did you want a silencer with that?
Yeah.
It's so uniquely American. It's
the constant in your ear that you get from shooting, or in my case, running chainsaws. Suppressors help.
Yeah,
Suppressors
immensely.
help.
Well, you got to remember that all a suppressor's job to do is to take the volume of the gunshot and drop it from an unhearing safe level to just within hearing safe level.
Yeah, most only drop what, like 35, 40 decibels, right?
Yeah, right around. I mean, if you can get one to pull 45 decibels, you've got a really nice suppressor.
Yeah.
And that's all they do. They trap the expanding gas so that it doesn't come out as one big kaboom, and it forces it to expand slowly. So by the time it exits into the air, it has done its expanding. And so it's not causing sound. But the thing you got to remember is, one, if it's a supersonic bullet, there's still a supersonic crack.
Or subsonic, yeah.
If it's a subsonic one, there's no supersonic crack, but the action of the gun itself is still about 120 decibels. So it's still quite loud.
Cases, yeah.
And even if you're using like a bolt action gun with a suppressor, right, which means that there's no sound from the action when you fire, you're still getting a little bit of a pop every time you shoot, and that's still going to be around 100 plus decibels. That's still going to be pretty damn loud. There's almost no such thing as a super silent silencer. They exist. If you get a 22 subsonic round with a suppressor, yeah, that's pretty much completely dead silent. You cannot hear it at all, but it's also a freaking 22.
What is it? The Ruger Woodsman, the one with the little thingy on the back.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You can suppress those with a dead air suppressor, and the action is actually louder than the shot.
Far, far louder. You still get that clack as it goes.
Yeah.
Because it's metal on metal slamming into each other. That's going to be loud. And, I mean, and like in Europe, there's no SBR thing. There's no SBS thing. Like, regardless of length, if you can buy that gun, it doesn't matter if that barrel is 16 inches, 18 inches, 24, 10. They don't care. If you have the legal license to buy it, then you get to just buy it. They don't care. They don't make that distinction. And also in Europe, they don't have the once a machine gun, always a machine gun thing. That's also uniquely American. There are a ton of people in competitive shooting across Europe right now who use AK-47s that just have a semi-auto trigger pack in them. Like, these are literally like surplused out of the army as full auto AKs, and they just put a semi-auto trigger in it, and now it's legal for civilians to own and transfer as normal. Whereas in the United States, that's a machine gun, which means it's always a machine gun, and so
which is like computer limiting a Ferrari. Just
yeah.
It's a crime. Yeah, it's a crime.
It's freaking tragic, but it's so much of these gun laws are so uniquely American. And as Americans go, oh, look at us and look at all our fantastic gun laws. Look at how free we are. You don't even realize that other countries get to have a ton of shit that you will never get to own and own it easily.
Isn't there a law in Canada that you can buy a firearm and then you can cut the barrel yourself? You don't have to. You don't have to get permission to cut the barrel down.
Yeah, right? As long as it's something that you can own.
Yeah, so you can take like an AR in Canada, make it an SBR, and it's still the same rifle, right? You don't have to register it. You still only get like 5 rounds. But
well, and its ARs are considered a restricted gun,
yeah,
which means you can only shoot them at restricted ranges, and you're only allowed to transport it outside of your home if you're going to a range or coming back from a range. It's this
You know where I was going with that.
Yeah, you can just go, oh, I'm going to slap this short barrel on it, and no one cares. No one cares. That is completely an American idea that we have to worry about concealability and sound levels. It just blows my mind.
So, all right, back to the article. Quote, we know this stuff has been working, and the right can continue to complain about the things that the left has succeeded at, or they can look at them, learn from them, and replicate it. That is from Michael Bolden, the founder and executive producer of the 10th Amendment Center. Yeah, he's not wrong. That's Machiavellian.
Well, and that's one of those things that, years ago, the Republican Party just started to realize. Like, and that was probably 6-8 years ago, somewhere around there, that they started to adopt that strategy and start doing this. And this is kind of the culmination of it. Like, oh, you want to be a sanctuary for immigrants? If that's cool with you, then I should get to be a sanctuary for a constitutionally guaranteed right.
All right. Let's see. I just missed it. Sabatini. Sabatini is a Republican member of the Florida House of Representatives. He co-sponsored the bill in Florida called the quote Second Amendment Preservation Act that would prohibit any employee of the state of Florida from enforcing or attempting to enforce quote any federal act, law, executive order, administrative order, court order, rule, regulation, statute, or ordinance infringing on the right to keep and bear arms ensured by the Second Amendment. The bill also says that any state employee who assists in enforcing federal gun control laws would be terminated and never again allowed to work for the state of Florida.
I doubt that's going to pass, but you know what? If it did, that's pretty freaking huge. Like, it doesn't even matter if it's an executive order or if it's just, oh, the ATF is telling you to do this. It doesn't matter. You are not allowed to help them.
Yes.
And the thing you got to remember why that matters is, yes, that means that state laws could still be done. And it means that federal employees can still, like the BATFI and DEA and stuff, FBI can still do this because they're federal employees. But those agencies have far fewer agents than you might realize. They depend very heavily on local law enforcement.
Because the article goes into it. Define federal law as something that a majority of states already do in one way or another. By becoming immigration sanctuaries or through the legalization or decriminalization of marijuana and other drugs that federal law has still deemed illegal. Quote, in terms of the method, it's identical, says Sabatini. In sanctuary cities, quote, they stopped reporting to or dealing with ICE, and that's basically what we're doing, right? Just in regards to firearms. Bolden, this is the 10th Amendment guy, he says, if states refuse to cooperate with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, the federal gun control becomes difficult to enforce. Quote, the ATF only has about 5,500 employees for the whole country. About a third of them are in the administration, and that means they don't have the manpower or resources to enforce federal gun control on their own. Mm-hmm. The maximum capacity year in and year out is about 8,000 to 10,000 closed cases. So if you get a combination of more than 10,000 people violating a federal act, and then on top of it, you have states and local communities refusing to participate in enforcement, you have then opened the door to actually nullify that federal act in practice and effect.
Yep, because it's unenforceable, and if it is unenforceable, it does not exist.
Yeah.
Because remember, it's not the fact that the people in the big white marble buildings said you can't do this. It's the fact that there are armed men willing to do violence to people to stop them from doing it that makes that law real.
Yep. Okay. This is where it gets fun. This is where Andrew's eyes perk up just a little bit. Bolden says that the legal case for nullification doesn't depend on the constitutionality of the law a state wants to nullify thanks to a legal doctrine known as anti-commandeering, which has been upheld in 5 Supreme Court cases from 1842 to 2018. It holds that the federal government cannot require states and localities to participate in the enforcement of federal laws.
Yep. Yeah. They can't commandeer. They cannot commandeer your local law enforcement and demand. They cannot force them to help them.
Yes.
A lot of people think they can, and they can't. So, like, if the FBI rolls into town and tells the local cops, I need you to help me with this, the local cops can be like, fuck off, no.
Yes. Quote, talking about constitutionality actually does kind of get in the way of anti-commandeering, Bolden notes. Quote, a lot of people like that as a line in the sand, and I think that's a good approach, but if you don't think you should be helping law enforcement gun control, even if the federal court says that this federal gun measure is constitutional. In 2018, when the Trump administration was fighting with local officials over the enforcement of federal immigration laws, John Bolton, who would be appointed by then President Donald Trump as National Security Advisor the following month, challenged the concept of nullification in an interview with the Breitbart News Daily. Quote, the idea that law enforcement at lower levels shouldn't be required to cooperate with the feds is just unthinkable, he told Sirius XM host Alex Morrell. Quote, that was also proposed by South Carolina Senator John C. Calhoun before the Civil War, to say that South Carolina and other slave states would not enforce federal law regarding slavery.
What?
Yes.
But no. No, wrong side of the issue, man. Like, he's making up things that are directly in opposition.
Hey, the mustache doesn't have a conscience. It
Yeah,
says
I
what it wants to say.
I still think those are actually aliens that are doing mind control. Uh, but that is directly the opposite of where nullification becomes a big thing in American history around the Civil War. It's the northern states refusing to cooperate with the Fugitive Slave Act and nullifying it by saying, no, it's not legal for the local law enforcement to help these guys.
Yes,
They don't have to. And therefore, that's the nullification, because it allowed the fugitive slaves to stay away. He's so pro-government. He is trying to alter history and make up an exactly opposite scenario to justify why cops should do what he wants them to do.
Yes. Bolden said that the argument is ahistorical. Anti-commandeering originated in 1842 Supreme Court case Prigg versus Pennsylvania, which upheld the state's right not to participate in enforcing the Fugitive Slave Act of 1793. Quote, the bottom line is nullification, as a tool banning participation in federal enforcement was actually a tool of the anti-slavery abolitionist North. And when South Carolina seceded, they issued a document to explain their rationale. And they specifically cited Northern nullification of the federal slave or the Federal Fugitive Slave Act.
Yeah, exactly. That was one of the reasons why the South issued their secession, was that they were like, well, you guys won't enforce these laws. So if you guys get to ignore laws, well, then we're going to ignore your entire government.
So, okay, now this is where the article makes a turn. And this, in my opinion, is the best, one of the best arguments for balkanization of the United States. Sabatini, again, this is the Republican member of the House of Representatives. Sabatini says his bill is popular among Florida voters, but that doesn't mean it's likely to pass. In other states, law enforcement groups like the Missouri Sheriff's Association has worked to prevent gun control nullification bills from passing or to change their language, rendering them toothless. Bolden says police departments want to continue enforcing federal law because it's lucrative. Quote, they get all kinds of funding from the Joint Task Force through things like the Department of Homeland Security grant, the Edward Bryan Justice Assistance Grant. They get civil asset forfeiture. I don't think they'll admit that they're getting a bunch of loot to do federal enforcement, but they certainly are.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I actually had somebody come on to one of my posts the other day and actually tell me, and I quote, "Cops protect the Second Amendment," which is the most absurdly nonsensical thing I've ever heard in my entire life. You might as well say, well, cops protect the right of you to own pot. Like, no, they do not. There is literally no historical or current backup for you for that position whatsoever. And this is exactly it. Like, you have all these cops who are fighting a bill that is to help make the Second Amendment a more real thing, because by violating the Second Amendment, they get more stuff.
Well, not only that, but like if you look at recently in, I think it was Tennessee recently went constitutional carry, right? Right before that vote happened, the Tennessee Police Union, all these other, like the Tennessee Sheriff's organization or whatever, and the state police in Tennessee and all these other law enforcement unions and groups in the state of Tennessee came out and said, hey, this is a bad bill. It's going to make our jobs harder. It's dangerous, blah, 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 blah. They literally advocated for keeping people from carrying firearms.
Yep. Yeah, exactly, because they want to be the only ones in a situation with guns.
Yes.
Because look at what happens when they're not. Look at the Bundy Ranch. When suddenly they're not the only ones with a bunch of people with guns. Yes. They have to back down. And they don't want to have to do that. They want to be the bullies without anybody standing up to them ever.
So Bolden says that for the nullification movement to succeed against gun control laws and beyond, More Americans will have to recognize that the most effective way to oppose federal policies that violate their rights is at the local level.
Yep. It's absolutely true.
Quote, the whole idea of federalism is so important because it's the only way you can have a country with a few 100 million people living together with a wide range of social, economic, political viewpoints together in peace. What's right for people in California is probably not right for people in South Carolina and vice versa. And what we see, and when we see things that come down to one size fit all centralized solution, I don't think anyone ever really gets what they want.
How is that ideal? Like,
it's not ideal.
I'm just like, how do these people think this is ideal? That somehow shoehorning together all of these incredibly diverse people with completely disparate value systems and everything else, somehow this is the best way to do things.
No, and it's not. And this is like this. I keep saying secession. I keep saying secession or balkanization, right? Which different meanings for the same sort of thing. It is a one size fit all solution that they're trying to implement in terms of gun control, also in terms of drug control, in terms of the fight for $15 minimum wage. $15 in New York City isn't shit. $15 in Montana is a lot of fucking money. They don't have the same economy.
Yeah, $15 across the majority of the United States is a lot of money. The majority of the United States. I've lived many places across this country, and $15 was a lot of money to earn per hour in all of them. It's ridiculous. It's only the coasts. It's the major cities on the coast, because it isn't even the rural parts of the coast. Oh, it's the major cities on the coast that it's not anything, and that, oh, well, I mean, 50. Well, yeah, but everyone else can't afford to do that.
Yeah, $15 an hour isn't going to get you a $3,500 a month apartment in San Francisco. But $15 an hour can get you, with a roommate, a pretty decent apartment up there in Chico. Right? I mean, roughly 200 miles apart.
We'll figure, I make more than 15 an hour, but not a huge amount more than $15 an hour. And I mean, I bring in, after taxes and paying for insurance and everything, I'm only bringing in a couple of grand a month.
Yep.
That's not that much. Like, realistically, like, it's fine here, around here, it covers stuff. But if I were in Southern California, $2,000 a month ain't doing shit.
No. My bills here are almost that much. Okay. Because 36 states have nullified federal marijuana prohibition, Bolden argues there's mounting pressure for the federal government to follow suit. Quote, I think we can replicate that on other issues and learn that localism is really the way forward for liberty.
Well, yeah, but these guys stop short of acknowledging that just being truly local, where you're completely separate from everyone else, is the way to freedom. That's, I mean, and I was just talking last night about the fact that America is an empire. There's no way around it. America is an empire. Blatantly, it's an empire. And the reason why even within, like, the Christian church, which we'll talk about Daniel 9, and it's got, the statue, and every part of this statue that's made out of different things is supposed to be a different empire. And they'll go and they'll name specific empires all the way down until they get to the feet that are a mixture of clay and iron. And then they'll be like, oh, and that's democracy. They won't say that's clearly supposed to be the United States. Even they will try to modify their interpretation suddenly and totally to justify how America isn't an empire. When you look at education, the public education system, when they talk about empires, they'll define an empire in a way that they can argue that the United States isn't one, even though if you look at Rome and you look at the United States, ain't a whole lot of difference.
All right, so I had to go dig up this Rothbard quote. He said, once one concedes that a single world government is not necessary, then where does one logically stop at the permissibility of separate states? If Canada and the United States can be separate nations without being denounced as in a state of impermissible anarchy, Why not the South secede from the United States? New York from the Union, New York City from the state. Why not Manhattan succeed each neighborhood, each block, each house, each person?
Mm-hmm. If you've ever rolled through a really big city from one neighborhood to another, you know that the cultures change dramatically across neighborhoods. Super dramatically.
Yes.
Things that will be completely acceptable in South Central LA are not going to be acceptable in Hollywood.
Yeah, here in Antioch, I'm about I think we're like 165,000 people, so we're a decent sized city, and it is dramatically different between downtown near the river and the south edge of the south part of town, which are the housing tracts up in the hills by the golf courses and the nice expensive shopping centers, like
Mm-hmm.
Coles and all those other expensive places are, like World Market and all those places. They're in the south side of town. They're not they're not on the north side of town by the river. They're not downtown,
Oh
because
yeah.
there's a financial, there's a culture, there is a entirely different way of being down here as it is on the south side of town up in the hills.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's look at even La Crosse, which is a really small city by anybody's standards in the United States. We have if you head down by the Mississippi and you head down there to like downtown, it's very artsy, it's very business oriented. There are apartments and stuff there, but it's all very artsy, very business, very high end. And then like you go to my neighborhood, in my neighborhood, my truck annoys people probably, but it's not a big deal. The guy next to me has two big trucks, big trailers. He's got a Bobcat that he plows our alley with, like, and no one even bats an eye. The guy next on the other side of me builds hot rods in his garage and he's always revving those, and that's fine. No one cares. But if I go to like up onto the bluff into the coulees, if I go out there, those are all really high end houses. Those are all, $500,000 plus houses, which for California, I realize doesn't sound like a lot, but for here, the house I'm in is worth realistically about $125,000.
Yeah.
So to put in perspective, it's worth way more. If I rev an engine or I have a loud truck like I do here, the cops are getting called immediately.
Yeah.
That's a completely different culture there. If I go down by the colleges, you basically can't walk in anyone's yard barefoot. You wouldn't dare because you'll step on broken glass. Uh, Stuff will get destroyed. It'll get stolen. There's the Hood, which is down on Fifth and Hood, ironically. You go down there and you can't leave things unlocked. Security cameras are on everybody's houses and stuff because things get stolen so much. There are police standoffs. There's all sorts of things. Completely different cultures. And they are all within about 5 miles of each other. Every single one of them.
So, yeah, this article, as on its face, this is a really decent article. It has some really good points in it, and it literally makes the case for balkanization or secession without actually going there, because and that's not a place that reason will ever go. But
Yep.
those exact same arguments, if you're so scared of the federal government enforcing things that you don't agree with, that you're willing to go to the point of trying to nullify the authority of the federal government, why are you cooperating with that federal government?
Exactly. Like,
That's
why
my
are you
take.
even, yeah, why are you even bothering?
Yeah.
Like, why? And the thing is, I mean, look at what happened. Look at what happened with this most recent election. As soon as Democrats take power, right? And I would argue they never really didn't have power, but as soon as they took power, like blatantly had power and could be transparent about it a
Yeah.
little.
Once the blue flags went up.
Yeah. They immediately start going, oh, we want to try and eliminate the electoral college. We want to ban suppressors. We want to ban assault weapons. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And it's just one after another that they immediately went for. And we're going to have executive actions and we're going to start doing this. And remember, leading up to it, they were going, well, when we have power, then we'll teach you. Then it's our time. And everyone was horrified by that. that idea that that's their attitude, why would you run that risk ever?
Why, why, why are you still supporting it? That's my thing. Like, what you talk about, especially when you talk to conservatives, when you talk to liberals, it's the same sort of thing. But when you talk to conservatives, really, when you talk about the ideas of secession, or you don't even have to bring up secession or balkanization. You could talk about the federal government being authoritarian and tyrannical and violating this and violating that, and we pay too much, and we have too much stolen from us in taxes and this and that, and the federal deficit and the national debt and blah 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 blah, and they'll agree with you on every single point that you say in regards to the federal government. And then you go, yeah, we should secede from the federal government. And they'll be like, yo, hold on, calm down. And then they'll call you like a fucking anarchist and crazy and unpatriotic. And it triggers their cognitive dissonance so fucking hard that they have a mental breakdown and result to emotional attacks.
Yeah, I mean, you will see, and I mean, you'll watch it if you know what's coming. You will see it happen, and you will see this like hyper aggressive thing come out of nowhere,
Like,
and they're super violent.
Why the fuck is Idaho and California ruled by the same people?
Exactly. Why is Texas and New York? Why are those the same people in charge? I mean, think about well, I mean, and it always drives me nuts because when I see those maps that are like, oh, the specific regions, whatever, and then they have like Yankeedom, that's the entire Northeast,
Yes.
and then it comes over to like Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, and I'm like, what planet do people live on that we have anything in common with them?
Oh my goodness.
Like, we have nothing in common with them. We don't even have the same ethnicities to our population that they do. There is nothing the same. Once you go around Lake Michigan, everything just starts changing.
Yes.
It's completely different. Like, Michigan, okay, fine, you could say that it's a little bit of a mixture of both the Northeast and the Midwest, but the upper Midwest is entirely different. It is its own thing unto itself. Iowa, Northern Illinois, with the exception of Chicago, because fuck Chicago, it can burn. Same with Milwaukee. No one likes them. No one cares.
It's the same here in California. Like Southern California, Northern California are different cultures, right? And then the San Francisco Bay Area and outside of the San Francisco Bay Area, again, different cultures, right? If you took Sacramento, the Bay Area, and LA out of California, this would be a very red state. It would be even yellow in some places.
Mm-hmm.
Like on the Humboldt coast, it would be totally yellow. But
oh yeah, Humboldt's as yellow as you get. I think far more so than even New Hampshire, and like with the Free State Project and stuff, and up there, it's still not as libertarian as Humboldt is. And you ever go to Humboldt and you realize real freaking fast just how libertarian they are. Woo!
They are do no harm, take no shit kind of people.
Oh yes, in fact, there are documentaries out there about Humboldt County that like talk about where federal agents will talk about you just don't go there.
Murder Mountain.
You just don't go there.
There's a really good documentary on Netflix called Murder Mountain.
You just flat out, if you're law enforcement, you don't bother. Just don't do it because you won't come back. But I mean, that's the idea, because people will even acknowledge too, like if you talk to people, they'll even acknowledge that California being as big as it is and as disparate as it is across California, that it doesn't make sense to have a state that large. And yet they won't extend that logically to say, but the entire country is like that.
They adamantly fight against the state of Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
The secession of Northern California, the secession of Southern Oregon. They actively fight against that.
Yep.
Oh.
Because you're weakening us. Well, no. No, there is no us, man. There's no us. That's the point. No. There is no us.
No, there's you and your boot. And then there's us having to live under it.
Yeah. And there's nothing voluntary about that. There's nothing voluntary about taxes. There's nothing voluntary about any of this. We have no choice. If we don't obey them, they will kill us.
Yeah. Hashtag make the Sagebrush Rebellion great again.
Well, what was the Jones, the state of Jones? Remember, the Civil War, and and look at what happened to them. As soon as people try to truly live independently and say, fuck you, I didn't like the South, but I don't like the North either. I
Yep.
don't like either one of you. I don't want anything to do with any of you. I want to be my own country. And what did they do to him?
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to a. I don't know why this is a also controversial topic, but court vindicates black officer fired for stopping colleague's chokehold. Cariol Horne. She is almost always held up as an example of when people say, "Oh, well, where's the good cops?" Blah 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 blah. Why don't the good cops speak out? Cariol Horne comes up. You might not know the name, but you know the story. 2006, she stopped a colleague from choking the suspect, and over the next year, she was fired over it.
Yep, because she dared to try and stand up against him.
Yes.
Trying to murder a man.
Yes. So, okay, so article, come on, there you go. It was a cold November day in Buffalo when Officer Cariol Horne responded to a call for a colleague in need of help. What she encountered was a white officer who appeared to be, quote, in a rage, punching a handcuffed black man in the face repeatedly as other officers stood by. Officer Horne, who was black, heard the handcuffed man say he could not breathe and saw the white officer put him in a chokehold. At that point, court documents show she forcibly removed the white officer and begun to trade blows with him. In the altercation's aftermath, Officer Horne was reassigned, hit with departmental charges, and eventually fired just 1 year short of the 20 on the force needed to collect her full pension. She tried and failed more than once to have the decision reversed as unfair. On Tuesday, this is just the other day, in an outcome explicitly informed by the police killing of George Floyd, a state court judge vacated an earlier ruling that affirmed her firing, essentially rewriting the end of her police career and granting her back pay and benefits she had previously been denied. Quote, the legal system can at the very least be a mechanism to help justice prevail, even if belatedly. That is a quote from Judge Dennis E. Ward.
Justice denied is no justice.
Yeah. His ruling also invoked the deaths of Mr. Floyd and Eric Gardner, a black man from Staten Island whose dying words were, "I can't breathe," having become a national rally cry against police brutality. Eric Gardner was choked out for selling loose cigarettes, untaxed.
Wasn't
cigarettes.
that? And this was like right after that, right? Like I feel like if I remember correctly, this was like right after, very soon.
I think Eric Gardner was 2015.
Really, this was before that?
Yeah.
Really? Huh. Yeah, like for some reason I'm like thinking that these happened like concurrently, but okay.
July 17, 2014.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's still like 8 years later that this actually occurred and, you know, caused her to get fired for trying to save someone's life, and now she's been vindicated because obviously we have incidents where people were choked since then by angry cops, died because nobody intervened. So now the court can point at those and go, nope, she was in the right here, guys.
Yep. Mr. Christopher, what is up?
How's it going, guys? Figure better late than never, huh?
Yeah, that's all right. We talked about secession. We spent the first 45 minutes talking about secession.
And I missed it. I'm very sad.
Now we're talking about Cariol Horne. She was the female officer in Buffalo that was fired for stopping a colleague from choking out a guy.
Yeah.
Right, she was fired way back in 2006. 15 years later, this past week, a judge actually vindicated her and said, yeah, you were right. The firing was wrong, all that good stuff.
So now she gets her benefits, she gets her anything. Although really, I think she should move right the hell out of that area if she hasn't already, because you know that in response to that, the other cops are going to come at her hard.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Quote, the time is always right to do right, added Justice Ward of the state Supreme Court in Erie County, paraphrasing Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. In a statement, Ms. Horne, 53, celebrated the decision. Quote, my vindication comes at a 15-year cost, but what has been gained could not be measured. I never want another police officer to go through what I had gone through for doing the right thing.
Except that is what's going to happen. Like,
Yes.
you know,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what's going to happen. She may think that somehow she's helped them, she's some sort of savior for them, but the reality is that the only reason she was able to argue it was because it was so directly connected to what she did. Now all
Right.
this has done is teach all of these police departments that what you need to do is you need to find something else to blame on them then, so that they can't make the connection in court, and that way you can get rid of them.
Yep.
All
I
right,
mean, that's employers do that all the time, right? Like we see that even in private employment stuff where you know, tell on a supervisor for violating something or for doing something wrong or whatever, and then they start finding a reason to get rid of you almost immediately because they're not allowed to retaliate, but they will figure out something else and then use that as an excuse and be like, no, it had nothing to do with that. See, they missed 3 whole days over the course of 2 years, and so on day 3, you know, we had to fire them. Like, they'll pull stuff like that, or their performance was slightly below, you know, whatever standard for too long, and even though everyone else's is too, they'll fire you for it because they're looking for an excuse. So obviously, if local, like, you know, private stuff is willing to do this, you know that the cops are going to do this, and they will manipulate records without a second thought. They do it all the time.
All right.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much sums up how my wife got fired from one of her most recent jobs. Was the long and short of it is she stood up to the HR director who was making a bullshit, edict that they had to follow. And my wife stood up to was like, that's not possible, and here's why. And as she was trying to, speak her piece, well, then the HR director piped up again and tried to answer a question that wasn't being asked. And my wife told her, no, you're going to let me finish my question before you start answering. And within 6 months, not even 6 months, they fired her because she was, quote, sleeping on the job, even though they weren't allowed to punch out for their half-hour breaks, was still required to take their breaks.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to a laugh. This is I can't even take this serious. I know it's a New York Post article, right? It's not an April Fool's article.
Well, I mean, that's pretty close to the same thing.
It's a legit article. She really did say this. Street fighter Nancy Pelosi says she would have fought off Capitol rioters.
Was she gonna raise her sword into the air and by the power of Grayskull and
I mean, she's 81 years old.
And like 100 pounds.
81 years old, 5'5", like 100 pounds. She literally looks like a fucking mummy. I'm just putting that out there.
Maybe she is. She's like, what's his face? The mummy from the movie The Mummy. And she was gonna and she was gonna cast some ancient spells on him. And I mean, I could have done it. This is the equivalent. This is the politician equivalent of I would have enlisted, but I would have punched one of the drill sergeants in the face if they'd yelled at me.
Yeah, pretty much.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi claimed that the January 6th Capitol insurrectionists would have, quote, had a battle on their hands if they had encountered her, declaring she is a street fighter.
Can anyone else picture right now her as like dressed like one of the characters from Street Fighter and
I'm just picturing that YouTube channel. You guys remember the Bum Fights YouTube channel?
Oh yeah.
That dude, you know, the best part about that Bum Fights is when that dude went on Dr. Phil to get berated by Dr. Phil. He shaved his head and grew his mustache and everything and dressed exactly like Dr. Phil. And Phil just stared at him for like a minute and a half because he had no idea what to say. Oh man.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm trying to get serious. Okay.
We're talking about Pelosi. We can't be serious.
You know what's really scary is Dianne Feinstein is the only thing keeping her from being a senator. Because
yeah,
they live
Yeah.
they live in the same senatorial district.
that is a sad state of affairs.
All right,
that
so
we're at here.
okay, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi claimed that the January 6th insurrectionists would have, quote, had a battle on their hands if they had encountered her, declaring she is, quote, a street fighter. Quote, that's what they were setting out to do, Pelosi told the USA Today, acknowledging that rioters had intended to reach herself and other prominent targets, such as Vice President Mike Pence.
We couldn't
Quote-
have got that lucky.
Quote, if they had, she continued, quote, well, I'm pretty tough. I'm a street fighter. They would have had a battle on their hands.
Why don't you calm down there, Chun-Li? All right.
Oh,
Thunderdome. Where's
where's
Thunderdome when you need it?
that statement kind of makes me think of like Jack Russell Terriers.
All right. Yeah, that's real scary.
All right. Nothing else in this article matters. It's just all gibberish after that. But
It's,
I mean, Street Fighter Nancy Pelosi.
I mean, ignoring the fact that like if she was dressed like Cammy, everyone would throw up immediately. But yeah, that would be her defense. She just
now
she
that's
just
stuck
in
in my
thing.
head, you son of a bitch.
that green One Piece thing, like
Ah.
back. Yeah, it's in your head now, and you can't make it go away. You're welcome.
I just came back from your town. I'm gonna come back just so I can whoop your ass for that.
You're welcome for my service.
Oh,
I mean, just now somebody, I know there's somebody out there who's a game programmer who could make a Street Fighter game and include Nancy Pelosi as one of the characters in it.
hold on now. We've had this conversation. We had the same conversation about the dinosaurs last week. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
No, you never should.
Just create a mod where if you're playing Street Fighter, all of the female characters are now Nancy Pelosi.
Oh,
Her superpower is tearing a speech in half defiantly.
that is Andrew Goff, Gouff on Facebook. He's also at the Inked Anarchist on Instagram and Twitter. Let him know what you think of that idea.
I'm gonna get so much hate mail now.
All 200 people that actually pay attention to this podcast are gonna hit you up.
There are gonna be people who woke up in cold sweat screaming, "No!"
Oh, all right. I don't know why I had to follow that article with this one, but New Jersey man suing federal government for rights to sell his own organs.
Well, I mean, they're yours. So
Yeah, this is another New York Post article, so it's going to have a little sarcasm into it.
Well, but my question about that is, why is that such a bad thing? I mean, they're going to take, most of them are going to take them from you whether you signed up to be an organ donor or not when you die. So why not make some money off them while you're here, or at least the ones you can afford?
Why not help people?
Right.
yeah, it's.
Right?
I mean,
you have two kidneys. I mean, granted, you have two kidneys, right? So I mean, you can live on one, and the liver reproduces.
Yeah.
yeah, up to 50% or something, or 51% of itself, it can regenerate. So, I mean, that's like what they're saying, what the state is saying by saying you can't sell pieces of your own body is
the government owns your body. That's why suicide in most cases is illegal.
Yep, suicide, prostitution, because no, you don't own your own body. The government owns your body.
Yep. So, the article says it's a gutsy move. A New Jersey man is suing the federal government for the right to sell his own organs, challenging a U.S. law that bans the practice. John Bellocchio, Bellocchio. Bellocchio?
Sounds about right.
All right, so John, 37 of Oakland, filed the suit against the United States Attorney General Merrick Garland in Manhattan Federal Court on Thursday. He says in the suit that he struggled financially and looked into offloading some of his organs, perhaps a kidney, only to find out it's illegal to make a buck on your body parts.
looked into offloading some of his. I could spare a few of these. Do I really need this whole
I don't
collection?
really need this. Yeah.
Hate to break up the set,
Well,
but
and
I need money.
See,
So
the best part about this is either it's my body, my choice, or it's not.
Yeah.
So if he wins this, then obviously that strengthens the whole argument and crap about abortion and stuff. But if he loses it, then that kind of blows everything up with Roe v. Wade, doesn't it?
Yeah. Bellocchio, a career academic who now owns a business that helps connect people with service dogs, argues that the law contravenes his constitutional right to freedom of contract in determining what can be done with his own personal property, or more specifically, his own body.
Yeah.
So
he's not wrong.
Exactly.
I mean, from a logical perspective, he's not wrong at all.
Yeah, if I own my own body, then therefore, should I choose to sell pieces of it, I should be able to. The fact that you legally force me to only donate them, that is a problem. Because, like, if you know somebody, or, you know, there's one of those APBs put out for, you know, this person's dying, they need a kidney, whatever, if you might be a match, you're allowed to then donate that kidney to a complete stranger. They're just not allowed to compensate you for that donation.
Yeah, it's the same with selling sex, prostitution, or whatever else. It's just the same situation, right?
Yeah, you can go out to dinner, spend $300 on a date night, and then take her back to your place and rail her brains out, or you can just give her the $300, take her back to your place and rail her brains out.
Yeah,
only one of those is illegal.
Yes. Right. There, quote, is a broad misunderstanding among so many people that a well-regulated government-managed market for organs is something out of a bad Dickens novel like Sweeney Todd type stuff, and that's just not the case, Bellocchio told the Post. Quote, the reality is that on average there are 113,000 people every year on the waiting list for a new kidney, the vast majority of whom will die before they even have the opportunity to move near the top of the list.
Yep.
Well, looking at him, though, to be honest, I don't know that you'd want his kidney. I'm just saying.
Kidney maybe, liver no.
Yeah, definitely not his liver.
Quote, if the opportunity existed so that I could help out someone in need while helping myself, I might do it. Bellocchio argues that kidney transplants are low-risk procedures and notes that you can donate an organ even though you can't sell one. Quote, altruistic donors are lauded for their selflessness. Their vital role in saving lives is undeniable. Quote, however, demand outstrips supply, and there is no valid constitutional or public policy rationale why one should not be able to receive a profit from such a transaction.
Well, yeah, and he's completely right, because this is the thing, is part of the reason why it's so hard to get a kidney is you need somebody to willingly donate a kidney and realize how much their life is going to have to change because they only have one kidney. Because it's going to alter your life forever. There's now things you can't do, like you can't drink.
It's. I mean, you're free to make bad choices, but you're not free from the consequences of bad choices, right? I mean, that's
right.
Yeah.
You know, self-responsibility, which is should be the hallmark of literally being a human, but.
Yeah, but like you can essentially what's happening is that they are forcing people to ask someone that they don't know to sacrifice possibly a huge part of their ability to enjoy their life for someone else with no recompense at all whatsoever.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. His suit also notes that, quote, buying and selling of human cadaver organs is allowed for research purposes. He also says that people can legally sell blood, plasma, eggs, sperm, and in some states even, quote, rent a womb. Right.
Mm-hmm.
The court documents say. So.
Bellocchio surrogacy is a big thing.
Yeah. Bellocchio also claims that the proposal could even help eliminate the black market for body parts.
Well, flat out would eliminate the black market.
Yeah.
Because at that point, the black market's just become the white market.
Well, yeah, because legalizing prostitution would eliminate or largely eliminate, trafficking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and it does. I mean, in countries that where, like, if you go to, say, to Holland, there's fully legal prostitution. Like, the local businesses, the brothels will require that the girls get tested regularly and have their little proof that, they're STD tested and they're STD free. But other than that, there's no black market, which means everybody's safer, everybody's happier, everything works better. There's way less violence. There's less crime involved in it because you're not handing over control of a market demanded thing to criminals exclusively.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's the same thing with any prohibition.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we don't need anybody else winding up in a bathtub after a date with a Filipino hooker with a call an ambulance now on a phone and ice.
That's not
as you do. Hey man, I've heard stories.
If you're lucky, you might actually get one of yours back. I mean,
you never know.
Literally taking a pound of flesh.
Imagine inadvertently buying a kidney on the black market and discovering it was your kidney. Hey, wait a minute. I recognize this.
This is a perfect match. Why is that? Well,
but I mean, the thing is too, that is a wider implication of the ban on selling human organs, is that it also means that no one can like start a business where they get people to sign up and they say, hey, we'll pay your family X amount for your body after you die. And then we'll turn around and sell those organs to anybody who might need them. Like, we'll test you. We'll keep a catalog of people who need it and that you're a match to.
Was it one of the Rothschilds had like 3 or 4 different heart transplants?
Yeah. I think it's one of the Rothschilds. Yeah. That it was like on his 4th heart transplant.
Motherfucker was paying.
Yeah.
Let's put it out that there's no way that a 90-year-old man gets to the top of a list of a heart transplant list.
Yeah, 4 times.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, is it's like, you gotta realize this is already happening. Money is already changing hands to get organs. This is already occurring anyway. And what's happening is that the super rich can do it in the United States with no fear of prosecution because they are able to afford to bribe and manipulate their way into no trail that they're going to get linked to and everything, documents being forged and blah, blah, blah. Whereas, where it gets really ridiculous is if you donated your organ and then you fell in hard times and were like afterwards and went, hey, can you help me out? And then they give you a bunch of money. That's okay. But they can't do it in exchange for the thing. It has to be not related to the organ. And I mean, it's so ridiculous that.
Okay, so this is just a ranker.com article. So take that for what it's worth. On April 2020. And it says that a kidney is worth about $200,000. The liver's worth $157,000.
Well, I remember wasn't that long ago somebody, I think it was a medical college out in the East Coast. They were paying $50,000 a testicle.
Yeah, eggs are worth $5,000 to $50,000.
Yep, that's actually because
holy shit.
That's because women can't regenerate them, unlike men with sperm. A woman is born with all of the eggs she will ever have. So if she's donating those, she can never recover those.
Oh.
Whereas guys donating sperm, dude, will make more.
Blood is worth $337 a pint.
Damn, I've been get gypped.
I'm on negative. Shit, I'll take $350. I'll take the money.
Skin is worth $10 per square inch.
Well, I used to make $200 a week. No, well, slightly less than that a week selling plasma.
Yeah, I used to do that too, and then they told me I couldn't come back because they had a hard time getting to my veins.
Oh, mine are super shallow. I'm a real easy poke, which is why I always got all the trainees.
Mine are easy enough to find. It's just that my veins got so damn tough that they couldn't pierce them anymore.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, mine. I just do that. And it's a super easy procedure. And why is it legal for me to go sell my plasma, a part of my body, but magically now, if it's an organ, now I can't sell it. I can't sell my skin.
And if
I can't.
You know, plasma comes from your bloodstream, which blood is considered an organ too, and you're.
So, okay, this is a futurism article. It says the liver's worth 137,000, kidneys are worth 138,700. I'm just saying $137,000. That's a life-changing amount of money.
Yeah. And imagine if you will, if you could buy and sell human organs in the United States. If you ran a business, what you could do is you would get people to sign up with you, right? They get like genetic testing or whatever to verify like who they're going to be a match with, whatever. People who then need those organs can come to you.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's one that they can take out with you still alive, they can call you and say, hey, do you still want to sell this thing? Because I have someone who wants to buy it. And if it's one that they can only take out when you're dead, then they get notified upon your death and compensate your family for all of the organs they're going to use.
What is that? Do they do that with houses too, like a reverse mortgage or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
I think is what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, imagine you could do that with your body, where you could basically you've pre-sold it, you're going to get compensated for it, and then on your death,
there'll be a contract. There'll be a contract, that says you can't do X, Y, Z, right? I mean, you can't do.
Right.
You have to maintain a certain health, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's your body. I mean, if you sign the contract, that should be your choice, right?
Yeah, you should be able to do that. It's yours. It's your resource that you are wanting to sell. It is the most of your resources.
Literally.
Like there is nothing you could be said to more obviously own than your own body. And yet you are legally forbidden in the United States from selling a part of it. Unless it's a liquid that you can regenerate, or if you're a woman, eggs that you can't regenerate.
Yeah.
So, all right. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about strippers.
I love talking about strippers.
Is this an article about Andrew's ex-wife, or?
Really?
Let's get off Andrew's ex-wife.
I wish more people would have said that. Back when we were married, if more people had said that, that would have been great.
This is the E11 Miami. It's E number one EVEN. That's the name of the club.
11.
That's what I think. So
11 with 11s.
So 11 Miami becomes the first major nightclub in the U.S. to accept Bitcoin.
Dude, can you imagine tipping a stripper with Bitcoin?
Yes, not just Bitcoin, not just Bitcoin. So 11 Miami has become the first major nightclub in the U.S. to accept cryptocurrency. The company has partnered with a cryptocurrency processing company so customers can use Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ripple, Dogecoin, and others to pay for tables, drinks, and merchandise.
I can only imagine buying bottle service with fucking Dogecoin. It's amazing.
Just clinking bottles to the moon.
Yeah.
Money printer go brrr.
Yeah. They need a portrait of Elon Musk. Have you seen that one where he's holding like a Tesla symbol and he's got the Doge in the one arm?
Yeah.
There's like a rocket. I want it up here next to my gun Jesus. I really want that one too. Also in a fancy frame like my gun Jesus, because it would just kind of complete the look, I think.
So 11, a 24/7 nightclub, is a celebrity hotspot which first opened its doors in 2014 and is proud to lead the way into technologically advanced payment option. Quote, with the tremendous growth and relevancy of cryptocurrency coupled with Major Francis Suarez leading the charge for Miami's tech boom, we felt it made sense to introduce cryptocurrency as an option to our guests to pay for their night out. That's a quote from Dennis DeGori. He is the creator CEO of 11 Miami. Quote, 11 is dedicated to always staying ahead of the curve, and we believe cryptocurrency is here to stay.
Strip clubs talking about tremendous growth and curves.
Yes. The system in place allows businesses to accept cryptocurrency as a form of payment without having to buy, own, or manage crypto. In addition, VIP guests at 11 are getting more involved in the Bitcoin industry. Quote, bringing services and amenities that cater to the cutting-edge clientele is of uber importance to us. And we're seeing an increased trend in clients wanting to use their cryptocurrency as a form of payment. We believe nightclubs allowing Bitcoin as payment will soon become a nightlife industry norm, and we are excited to be the ones paving the way.
That is, I mean, like, that's so cyberpunk. Like, it's hard for me to describe how exciting it is.
I remember there was an article I think we covered before the pandemic. It had to be late 2019 when we talked about it, and it was in Las Vegas. There was a smaller strip club that was accepting them, and the girls actually had the QR code on a sticker, like a temporary tattoo or a sticker, and they had it on their butt or on the back of their thigh or something.
Bend over, I gotta scan you. Click.
Literally, that's what they were doing. Like, they would bend over and they would take the picture of the little QR and tip them that way.
That is, it's so cyberpunk. I fucking love it. It's so awesome. Like,
and the thing with the scanning the QR code temporary tattoo thing, I could see that being of a question, only because you're not supposed to take pictures of stuff while you're inside the strip club. But
but you're not. I mean, it's not a permanent picture.
Different clubs, different rules.
Theoretically, I mean, but what's to stop you from taking
different clubs, different rules?
Yeah, I've been in strip clubs that would let me take pictures with the strippers as long as the strippers were fine with it. So, like, there are selfies of me with a bunch of strippers.
Your wedding photos don't count, Andrew.
You're not supposed to touch the strippers either, but
yeah,
that's true.
None of them had a problem.
There's a reason there's a VIP room.
You go in the back. I mean, TCB.
That is a fantasy that just doesn't really happen. There is no sex in the champagne room, to quote.
I didn't say champagne room. I didn't say champagne room. I said in the back.
Like in the fucking alley. Like, Daddy, how was I born? Well, you see, when a man and a woman love each other behind a strip club in the alley. I'm just full of uplifting stories, apparently.
Well, you see, your dad was getting a kidney removed, right?
Dude, that is the future that cyberpunk anarchists want, man, where I can go and I can sell my kidney for Bitcoin and then take the Bitcoin to
the strip
a
club,
cybernetically enhanced strip club. And like, I've always been huge on transhumanism, like the idea that I could enhance my body with some sort of like electronics or anything else. Like, that's super cool. So the idea that, we're heading that direction where organs are going to start to be able to be sold, hopefully, where, we're 3D printing human organs, which is a thing that's been going on for like 10 years now, that they've been developed 3D printed kidneys. That's a thing that we're getting to, we're starting to get to this point where, like, almost the Geordie LaForge visors are soon to be reality. And now I can tip strippers with Bitcoin and Dogecoin, more importantly.
To the
moon.
in a strip club. Like,
say, my Dogecoin account could pay for one hell of a night at the strip club right now. I mean, just saying.
It's, I mean, that's it. Like, this is turning into this super cool cyberpunk reality, which is generally kind of touted as a little dystopian, but I don't think it will be. Like, I don't think that's the direction that goes if you can get rid of government interference in it.
Yeah.
Like, if you can keep it all completely free and free market and things, I think you get a really cool future out of this. And this is a step to it. It's also just the fact that I can use Dogecoin to pay for a lap dance is a very exciting idea.
I'm contractually obligated to say to the moon again.
It's just... You know what they need to get is like one of those NFC readers for you to be able to NFC transfer it and then just like tuck it in their G-strings. Like, put your leg up here real quick. Beep.
You just make the POS, the point of sale sound, beep.
Yeah, exactly. Beep.
They got a little scanner. You just beep.
Oh gosh.
Someone from the other side of the club yells, "It's in the baggage area."
Remove item from the bagging area. It is out of the bagging area. I mean, to be fair, they actually won't allow you to tip the strippers with Bitcoin. It's actually that, if you want to buy bottles or beer.
Yeah, it's the club that is accepting the Bitcoin
Right.
in this instant.
Yeah, but I really wish they would let me tip strippers with it, because that would be fucking amazing.
There's a lot of strippers that already accept crypto.
Make it rain, and like there's TV screens, they just show Doge. Much rain, many dance. Wow.
Actually, I have a physical novelty Bitcoin around here somewhere, and it weighs like 3/4 of an ounce.
What? God, what the hell?
Make it rain! Oh no! Call 911. Get an ambulance out here.
Ends up showing up the next night with an eye patch. Like,
they start calling you Sonic.
bloop, 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 bloop.
This is why we're not allowed in polite companies.
Well, yeah, but polite company is not all it's cracked up to be. So
Get a vaccine, you can join society. Fuck your society.
right?
Bold of you to assume I wish to join your society.
We'll build our own society with kidney sales and Bitcoin strippers.
Kidney sales and Bitcoin hookers.
Bitcoin hookers would be better.
The problem is with the way Dogecoin's going up. Like, if you're going to try to do like blackjack with like Dogecoin, by the time you win, what you bet might actually be worth more than you wind up winning.
Yeah, I mean, I remember looking at it on Friday night, and it's like, okay, it's up over. I think it was up over 20 cents Friday night. I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. I get home Saturday morning. It's like, how the fuck did this get up to 36 cents? Now I see it settled right around 33, but still, it's like, Jesus Christ, this was created as a meme.
Yeah, it was a joke. A joke crypto. And I know, we know a few other people who have made their own joke cryptos recently, and because they thought they were funny. And if I start seeing a bunch of joke cryptos going up in value, I'm just be like, this is the best timeline.
Let's see, Bitcoin right now is 57,260.
You know what pisses me off about that is when it was $5,000, I had $5,000, and I thought about just buying one Bitcoin and just hanging on to it. And I decided not to because I was worried that it was going to wind up turning around and I was just going to lose a bunch of money. And now, if I had put $5,000 into
you would have just
Bitcoin,
about $60,000.
Let's see. Dogecoin right now is 32.82. So just under 33 cents per.
Man, and crypto is like one of those things that is, it's like the most freedom oriented kind of currency I can imagine realistically. Like it's entirely like based on just everyone collectively going, yeah, you know what? I see value in this. And then that's it. Independent of any government or any centralized control, like just people just deciding, you know what? I value this. And then therefore it now having value. And it's such a cyberpunky thing to have crypto. The entire idea of the blockchain is super cyberpunk and just really, really cool. Mm-hmm. And no, little Gen Zers, I'm not talking about Cyberpunk 2077, the video game, which is based on Cyberpunk 2077, the tabletop game that existed when you were a fucking tadpole. Yep. All right.
If you want a great introduction into the possibilities of Bitcoin, there's a great fiction novel written by a couple of cyberpunks out of Germany, called #Agora. It's the # Agora, and it's available for free on anarplex.net, or you can actually buy it online through Liberty under Attack Publications at Shane Radcliffe. and it's about this guy Daniel and his introduction into cryptocurrency when cryptocurrency was a thing, and it's fantastic read. It's one of the things that I first read and I went, oh shit, this stuff has potential.
Huge potential. Potential. I mean, of course, if the world internet goes down, it loses.
Hold on. There is off-grid cryptocurrency exchanges. You can do it through a hard wallet, like a USB adapter.
Doesn't say it would have to be like a solid state drive kind of thing.
You can also do it through mesh networks, and there are also people transmitting through radio signals.
Yep,
that's got to take forever.
Yeah, end of day, but it's possible.
Like, hang on, I'm going to transfer you $3. Do you have 16 hours? Like,
so,
there are also people that are setting up regular, like it would be a dial-up connection essentially to some of these exchanges.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I mean,
there's also the option. I have seen the idea, like you can buy people, like you can buy someone $20 in Bitcoin and print out the little QR code, right, and give them that, and then they can log in and punch the information or take the picture and get the Bitcoin themselves. I think AnyPay is doing it, right, where you can tip in Bitcoin using that sort of process, but you could also do that and exchange value for if that was your means of exchange with those little slips.
These things exist, right? These little USB flash drives, and I could totally see these becoming like, and this like even has a lanyard loop built into it. So you could just have it on a lanyard, have your Bitcoin stored on here, and then
and then you just you put it under an encryption, you put it under a lock, and then you just you give them that, and then when it's secure, you get away, you give them the code or whatever. And
well, I'm thinking like you could, and then at that point, like have something on here where then you're going to have, where you would have like a centralized like payment system. They plug theirs in one side, you plug yours in the other side.
Absolutely.
It does its thing, and now it transfers the money, and off you go. And that's, I mean, I could see that being a thing if the internet goes down. The problem is that developing stuff like that gets way harder without an internet connection. So it's,
and you have to be in physical presence. You couldn't do that, through some sort of long distance exchange.
Yeah, right. It's basically, it's almost returning to like cash, but returning to an artificial cash. It's much smaller, much lighter.
It's like swiping a debit card.
Yeah, and
actually with the internet being what it is today, there's a lot of processors out there now that will ship you a debit card, so you can just directly use your Bitcoin or whatever cryptos you have in your wallet. You can.
You can't slide the card through a stripper's ass though. I'm just they don't. Like
you can't yet. You can't yet. Those little square. Those square chip readers. I mean, you could put a chip reader. She could put a chip reader in places that we don't want to talk about.
Yeah, see that's what I that's kind of what I was talking about with the little QR thing or the little RF things where you just be like boop, and you're asking to see someone's butthole for a totally different reason at that point. It's
the butthole's part of the QR code.
The butthole is the QR code.
Is the QR code? It's anal prints. We know that
the anal prints. The anal prints. The smart toilet.
Yes. That's where I was going with that.
Oh,
just scan the butthole and transfer money.
God, the FEMA camp is going to be lit.
The most secure payment method on planet Earth. Except we also know that you can mold that and replicate it because you can actually buy chocolate buttholes that are taken from a mold, which is still one of those things that I'm not here to kink shame, man, but I'm just saying I'm judging you.
Yeah. All right. On that note, Alaska Village requires full vaccine for in-person shopping. This is a village outside Bethel. There's only like 493 people. It's a BIA, which is Bureau of Indian Affairs village. But a village in Alaska has mandated that only fully vaccinated people will be allowed into the community stores and businesses. Cognac, it's Kongiganak. Cognac had
Okay.
50% of its eligible residents vaccinated with at least one dose as of April 9th. Cognac reported that population of 439 people in 2010 U.S. census. Shelia Phillip, the traditional council secretary, said that people who are fully vaccinated can go inside the village's 2 stores if they are wearing masks and follow social distancing guidelines. People not fully vaccinated, quote, can still make phone orders and have their orders delivered to their home.
So the vaccine's effective and everything, but you still have to socially distance and mask in order to go into the store
Yes.
after you've been fully vaccinated. I'm trying to do the math on this.
The general manager for the Coast Corporation, Harvey Paul, said the village stores allow 4 people inside at a time.
But if the vaccines work,
hold on. That's not the big part of the article. I mean, we know where that is going, and we don't want to be kicked off Spotify. So, Paul says employees verify that a customer is vaccinated by checking their name off a list provided by the tribe. Quote, every couple of days they give us a new list. The list keeps getting bigger and bigger. That's a good sign, you know. Paul said allowing only vaccinated people to shop in person is helping increase vaccination rates in the village. Quote, it gives them the incentive. Hey, look, I better get vaccinated too so I can go to the store.
We'll give you a little freedom as a treat.
The best way to curb this virus is to get vaccinated. That's where I was going. They only had 1 death in the whole community from COVID, by the way. But that's where I was going with that. It's the same. Like there was the article. Our friend Crystal Luna at Anarchist Beauty, she posted it about Budweiser buying people beers for getting vaccinated. Right? We have gyms offering people memberships for getting vaccinated. Dunkin' Donuts, get vaccinated. You can.
There was I don't remember who it is. It's some model on Twitter who talked about the fact that she was approached by the CDC and offered money to promote getting vaccinated.
Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Health Department, back in January, there was a news article that said that they were approaching, quote, social media influencers and paying them to promote the vaccines. Oh,
but don't worry, it's not a propaganda campaign or anything. Yeah,
totally not. So we can do a whole article on that one, just on that little snippet.
If it worked as well as they claim it does and everything else, then why do they need to push it so bad?
And what does it matter if you get it and it works? What does it matter if I don't get it?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is like if I get my if I get a TB vaccination, or I get a Hep vaccination, or I get smallpox, if I get vaccinated for a smallpox vaccination, if I get my smallpox vaccination, I can literally touch people who have active smallpox and not get sick. So what exactly? I mean, people in the healthcare industry are usually forced to go get the flu vaccine so that they don't risk giving the flu to patients because they can't get it then once they're vaccinated. This is the one and only vaccine I have ever heard of ever where they go, well, yeah, you're vaccinated, but you could still get it. And also here, use all these precautions you were using without the vaccine.
Yes.
Yeah.
What? But this is they're doing this because they're trying to force everybody to do it. They're trying to convince everybody to do it, whether it's useful or not, because it's still security theater. It doesn't necessarily matter whether it does anything. They could literally be injecting you with saline solution for all you know.
Yep.
And they're just going to force everybody to do it. Or they could be
injecting you with syphilis like they did the Tuskegee Airmen.
The Tuskegee experiment. They could be just injecting you with who knows what, and you have no idea. And I just shared a thing with about adverse reactions to to the vaccine. There are 820 posts about people either dying or experiencing severe adverse reactions in that one post that are all collected together.
Yeah,
Not only that,
Facebook
but
deleted a group with 120,000 people in it.
yeah. And I can speak for a friend of mine who did get it after they had COVID, and he was hospitalized after a second dose because of the reaction he got. And there's now emerging research, surprise, surprise, that if you've had it, if you've actually had COVID and you go and get the vaccine, you are far more likely to have adverse reactions to the vaccine.
Yeah. And yet they're not offering I had COVID, I have the antibodies vaccine card kind of thing where now you can go out, even though you're naturally immune now. I mean, that was my justification. Like I told my boss when she asked me about whether I was going to get the vaccine, I said, look, I already had COVID. I got over it naturally, which means I have antibodies to it. I'm not going to get the same strain again. I can't. So what that means is the vaccine can do absolutely nothing for me at all. Nothing, because that's not how vaccines work. It can't do anything for me at all. If there is even a 0.00001% chance that I will get some sort of adverse reaction from it, why would I run that risk? If I'm already immune anyway, it can do nothing for me. All I'm doing is risking getting sick.
Or worse.
That's stupid.
Or worse.
Yeah, or dying. That's dumb.
No.
There's no logic to that at all.
No.
And because they know there's no logic to their campaign about what they're pushing here, they need to find another way. So their way is to go, well, you don't get to do things if you don't get vaccinated.
Yeah, they hold it like a carrot. You know, the carrot out in front of the donkey that makes the donkey just keep plodding along.
You can be free as long as you do what we tell you to.
Yeah, that's what this is. This is a what's happening is this is a litmus test for obedience. That's what they're doing. They're doing a litmus test of the population for obedience.
And what I find absolutely glorious about that is the fact that there's so much pushback.
Yeah.
Because again, if I own my body, as we covered before with the organs, if I own my body, that means that I get to dictate what goes into it and what does not. You do not get to force me to inject something into my body.
Yes.
Right, and to say that you can is to say that you own my body and not me.
All right, let's see. We only got about 25-ish minutes left. Let's get this last article because it's a good one. U.S. at risk of armed anti-police insurgency within 5 years, a researcher claims.
Gosh, it's almost like we've talked about this before.
I'm a little excited.
It's almost like we've been saying this for a couple of years now that this is a thing that's probably coming.
Yeah. Tematope or Rila, Temitope.
Okay.
Oriola.
Okay.
Okay. An expert in armed insurgency in sub-Saharan Africa has issued a chilling warning that the U.S. may soon witness its own armed insurgency if significant police and criminal justice reform is not enacted quickly. Aurelio is the joint editor-in-chief of the African Security Journal and associate professor at the University of Alberta. Based on his years of experience studying armed uprising across the globe, he now believes that the U.S. is potentially on the brink of disaster. In a recent article, he cites recent examples, including the shooting death of Breonna Taylor, the asphyxiation death of George Floyd, and the shooting death of Daunte Wright during a traffic stop as examples of deteriorating socio-political conditions for African Americans. Without significant intervention and reform, Aurelia believes that the social conditions in the U.S. may well lead to an armed insurgency within the next 5 years and possess an anti-police insurgency as most likely to occur.
I am just shocked. Shocked, I say. Just so shocked.
Yeah. After examining the development of the Zabasta uprising in Mexico or the militant insurgents in the Niger Delta in Nigeria, Aurelia believes with such an armed uprising to take place in the U.S., it would begin with desperate or disparate groups who would gradually form some sort of loose coalition with no centralized leadership. The decentralized power structure already exists in social movements like Antifa, for example.
I actually feel like one of the aliens from They Live right now going, we've got one who can see.
Hold on. One more paragraph. Aurelia highlights the fact that one direct cause is insufficient for such armed uprisings to take shape, rather than a number of social, political, and economic factors must coalesce simultaneously in order the balance to tip in favor of organized insurgency. He points to, quote, transgenerational oppression of an identifiable group as such a precursor which, combined with the overriding sense of ongoing injustice and numerous flashpoints of police brutality, provides sufficient kindling for the situation to reach the point of armed conflict. Repeated group radicalized trauma in the form of police killings and other forms of brutality, combined with disproportionately bad health care outcomes for African Americans in such areas as COVID-19 and cancer survival rates, add further fuel to the fire, in Aurelia's estimation.
So essentially what he's saying is that it won't just be what is happening to black people in the United States with cops, that there's going to need to be other factors that are going to need to show up in order for this insurgency to truly coalesce. Like, I don't know, maybe all of a sudden whites are also getting really regularly murdered, and it's becoming a very obvious thing that they can't deny, and people turn against cops because there's gun control enacted, and all of a sudden all these people who have guns are getting murdered right and left.
There was a drive-by shooting that injured 2 members of the Minnesota National Guard the other night. A drive-by shooting on a National Guard unit. I mean, there's superficial wounds from broken glass, but a drive-by shooting on National Guard units.
This is a thing that people have been, anybody who's got their eyes open, who's not isolated with the street fighter Nancy Pelosi off in DC.
Okay, let's hold on. Let's look at last summer. Right? All the protests, all the looting, all the rioting, all the anti-police rhetoric and propaganda, there wasn't a whole lot of anti-government propaganda, but there was a lot of anti-police propaganda. And it wasn't until the end of that, October, November, when you actually started to see firearms being involved, right? With like the Rittenhouse shooting, right?
Yep.
Now imagine all that buildup, the continuation over the past political season, over the winter, still the lockdowns, still the bad economics, still nothing has changed. Kicking up this season, as Prepping 2.0 called it, riot season. Starting to kick off, right? We got the George Floyd thing. We got these other couple shootings happening. We've already had some riots going on.
Riot season when the Molotov cocktails are in bloom.
Burning dumpsters are so beautiful this time.
Oh, yeah.
Burning police stations look just that much better, though.
The fields of, all of the police cars begin flipping, and riot season.
Flaming cop cars are my favorite flower.
Well, that's the city flower of Minneapolis.
Oh, that should think at this point, yeah.
That should be on a t-shirt.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing is, like, we're talking about a pressure cooker that hasn't actually had a release valve triggered. That actually hasn't happened.
The pressure's still building.
Yeah. And it's not showing any signs of slowing down anytime soon either. I mean, the people were all hopeful that Biden was going to enact some sort of police reforms. All they've seen is he's doubled down on a lot of the stuff that
Oh yeah,
he
continued
about
to
double down on that. Refused to talk to the BLM leaders. The upper echelon of the Democratic Party in Congress are like, BLM who?
Yep.
Yeah, they also don't forget that he's also continued to confiscate land to continue to build Trump's border wall. He's continued all of Trump's policies that the left hated. All that we've seen change is the propaganda machine has shifted gears from government bad because Orange Man to government good because Sniffy Joe.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's all that's happened. And it's not like on the ground in these neighborhoods that rioted already and already had these, all of these things happen. Nothing has changed for them. And no matter what the propaganda machine keeps trying to churn out, they don't care what the propaganda machine says. They can see it with their own eyes.
Yep.
Exactly. So they're going to keep doing what they're doing. The stuff is going to keep happening. It's going to get more regular. It's going to get bigger. And all that's really changed is that the media isn't covering it.
The last, 10 months in total, 12 months in total, have been continuously, month after month after month, record-breaking numbers of NICS background checks for gun sales.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And with that last batch of Biden bucks that got sent out, they had another record-setting month because most people that were getting their $1,400 were turning around and then buying guns and ammo.
Well, at this point in time, $1,400, that's a Glock and a case of ammo.
I have never.
Not even a case, but
it's not a case of it.
$1,400, that's a Glock and a case of ammo and some change, and a couple of magazines.
Right, but these are the people that are late to the party that are going, look, everybody else is getting armed up because of everything that's going sideways in this country. Maybe it's time that I start rethinking my stance. I have a coworker and her wife. When I first got hired, we would talk about, politics between us, and there wasn't a whole lot we could agree on. Over the course of the last year, she and her wife borrowed a couple of my pistols to go take a concealed carry class because they're buying their own handguns because they don't feel safe in the community of Onalaska, Wisconsin.
Yeah, they're suddenly realizing and that's the thing is when reality has slapped you in the face so hard you can no longer ignore it is when real change begins. And that's what we're seeing reality slap people really hard in the face. People who had previously been able to insulate themselves and convince themselves, no, I'm safe though. No, I can depend on the cops though. And now they're realizing, wait, I can't. I'm not safe. I can't depend on them because especially what the Minneapolis riot showed is that the moment there's an armed mob roving around, the cops pull back and go hide.
Yep. So, all right. Okay. This quote, this is the quote that gave me goosebumps. We'll get into the factors after that. Aurelia suggests, quote, any anti-police insurgency in the U.S. will likely start as urban-based guerrilla-style movement.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's usually how they kind of start.
Asymmetric warfare on U.S. soil.
For the second time. Well, third time, really.
Third time.
Yes.
Third time.
The U.S. government, the U.S. military, has never defeated an enemy in an asymmetric war.
Actually, if you look at military history of the 20th and 21st centuries, in the past 100 years, no one has ever defeated an asymmetric warfare opponent with conventional warfare. Ever. Nope. They have never done it. The French couldn't do it in Vietnam. The Americans couldn't do it in Vietnam.
The Soviets couldn't do it in Afghanistan.
Or Iraq.
Yep. We couldn't do it in Afghanistan. We couldn't do it in Iraq. It's the Syrians couldn't do it in Syria. Gaddafi couldn't do it with his own military in his own country. Across Africa, none of those powers has been able to do anything about it.
Do it, and that guy's fucking insane.
Look at Yemen.
Yeah,
Yemen right now is
the closest anyone has come.
Look at Somalia.
Somalia, the Americans brought overwhelming force to that. and then realized that it wasn't going to work and pulled out.
Look, okay, the movie Black Hawk Down, right?
Mhm.
Based on a real event, loosely based on real event. I mean, it has some accuracy to it, but that was a trained military force, Rangers, Delta, SEALs, against an asymmetric mob. And look
Yep.
what happened.
And they got their asses handed to them.
Yeah, and they absolutely did. And you know, and that's the thing too, is you're talking about special forces units and special operations forces units. And even they're trained in asymmetric warfare, but even they couldn't do shit.
Yeah, your background,
Mhm.
your military
Yeah.
training involved training in asymmetric warfare.
Yeah, and you're never gonna beat it's because you can't beat it. You cannot beat it because there's no centralized authority. There's no cohesive. Like if it's a standard army, I can go after that general. I can go after that leader. I can, World War II. I could go after these specific units, capture these units, capture this area, lock it down. In the middle, there were lines, and they'd have to pull back. With asymmetric warfare, there's no lines. There's no centralized authority to capture. None of that exists. And even if you try to cut the head off, like when we went after Muhammad Farah Aidid in Somalia in 91, even if you do that, even if you had captured him, and even though they did capture and wound up either capturing or killing the majority of his lieutenants, you notice nothing changed.
Nope.
Yep. Well, you could even point to Osama bin Laden when they got him. And I'm sorry, what's changed in Afghanistan since the capture and killing of Osama bin Laden? Yep. Not a fucking thing.
All right, so he adds that attacks would be sporadic at first and would employ small arms and improvised explosive devices, predominantly targeting symbols of law enforcement. This was to a certain extent already foreshadowed in the summer of 2020 in the wake of the murder of the George Floyd, with numerous, quote, autonomous zones established in cities like New York, Seattle, and Portland, on top of a month of riots sprawled across media coverage of the wider and mostly peaceful BLM protests. To make matters worse, Aurelia highlights the fact that the U.S. has, quote, the highest number of civilian firearms in the world, with 120.5 guns per 100 persons, or more than 393 million guns.
How do we arm the other 11?
Yeah, how do we arm the other 11? How do we arm the that's, there's still thousands of people who don't have guns. We need to figure out how do we put guns in their hands. And remember that small children are best oriented to crew served weapons. But I mean, that's the thing, is like, as that riot was happening in Minneapolis, I remember thinking to myself, it's only a matter of time before somebody decides to raid a National Guard armory.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And those armories are basically undefended. Yep. Like if you drive past them, they're I mean, there's nobody there. There are weapons stored there. There are weapons there.
Yep.
There's no ammunition, but there's weapons.
There's training rounds that are sitting there. There's vehicles that are sitting there. There's heavy weapons that are just sitting, and all that's standing between you and those heavy weapons half the time is a chain link fence and no real security at all. So it's only a matter of time before one of those riots goes, hey, wait a minute. And I realize that a lot of people might not know.
Some 1 week in a month trained MP. Come on now.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is a lot of people may not realize, but there basically are no military vehicles that need keys. Intentionally, that's by design, right? You want anybody who needs to jump into that to be able to just jump into it and go. So realistically, they just need gas, and you hop in and you push start, and they go.
That's not it. That's not a t-shirt cannon on top of that Hummer.
Yeah, exactly. Like, all it takes is the riots to go to the wrong place and somebody to get the wrong, to suddenly have that wrong for the government, the wrong idea.
That's the beauty of the mob, is that it is leadable. It is not like a person can be like, the head of the mob, but a person or a group of
influenced.
People. Influenced. There you go. That's the better word. The mob is influenceable. It only takes 2 or 3 people to start smashing windows, and then everybody else is doing it. It only takes 2 or 3 people to go into a building, and then people are following them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It only takes a couple people to go through a fence at a National Guard armory.
Yeah, and then once that happens, suddenly now the game has changed completely. And the reality is that we're definitely heading that direction. I think anybody with eyes can admit that that is the direction it's heading, and that we've always been
heading that direction without major change.
Yeah, unless things change in significant ways.
If the status quo keeps going as is, lockstep as it has been, shit is gonna get wild.
Yeah.
Is also why no one should really want to be in cities, because that's going to get really, really nasty. You do not want to find yourself in the middle of an asymmetric war zone. There are no front lines, which also means that your business, your home, could suddenly wind up in the middle of a battlefield. You don't want that to happen. You don't want to suddenly find yourself in the middle of a battle that you want nothing to do with, and you're suddenly getting shot at. Not because you're a participant, but because you were home.
Mm-hmm.
That's really bad. I mean, in World War II, that was always a thing, right? Where people were constantly getting caught in the middle of this stuff. Getting out of cities is probably a really good idea right now.
Well, and that's like right now I live in a rural town. You live in a city, Andrew, and of course you do. You're right in the middle of bullshit city, but even me, I live in this town of 1,500 people. I don't want to be here. No when shit goes sideways. I would much rather go and live on a farm with 10 acres where I can just, hey, you can leave me alone here. But
no.
Here we go.
We're watching the fall of the Roman Empire, but with Wi-Fi.
There's
right.
I mentioned I mentioned a podcast earlier called Prepping 2.0. One of the hosts of that is Glenn Tate. Glenn Tate wrote a series of books called 299 Days, and it's based out of Washington. There was an economic collapse, a government collapse, and he does. There's a lot of neocon conservative propaganda rhetoric to it, but if you can read past that, that is a really good book series, and I believe that's kind of like the best case scenario is what's going to happen, and it's a fantastic read, and it'll give you some food for thought. 1 Second After, William Forsythe, I think the guy's name is. That's another good one about collapse. That was from an EMP, and the bad things that happened. So I don't know.
An EMP makes everything a hell of a lot more interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, again, that's one of those things like when I was bringing up that the United States is an empire. Empires collapse. That's what happens.
Yet another reason to succeed or balkanize.
Yeah, empires collapse. They implode on themselves. And if you look at the way that the Roman Empire collapsed because of a combination of interior threats because of economic hardships and political strife and extremism and things, and exterior threats that were also attacking it from the outside. Well, what do you see right now in the United States? You see these interior things because of political strife and upheaval and economic problems and hardships, and the United States is still being threatened from the outside as well. And what do you think is going to happen? We saw it happen with the Roman Empire, and if you watch how the Roman Empire collapsed and you look at now, you're going, hey, that's awful similar to what I'm seeing right now. Like, holy crap.
There's a meme floating around. I've actually seen the patch now too, and it's the snake from the Revolutionary War, join or die.
Yep.
All right, well, now they have one, and it says secede or die.
Yep.
Oh.
Well, yeah, because if you're part of a country that collapses, you're collapsing with it.
Yep. All right. Final thoughts. Let's wrap this up.
I don't have any that won't break Brandenburg v. Ohio.
Same.
I've already cited them twice. I've already cited Prepping 2.0 twice, and they close out the show with a quote every time that says, failing to prepare is preparing to fail.
Yep.
Oh.
That's the people who are late to the gun buying party are really late to the party, and it's not going to be much longer that it's too late.
They got nice $3,000 race guns that they're shoving steel case crap 9mm ammo into with no training. They'll be fine, bro. They're totally not
I'm
loot
not gonna
boxes.
lie. I'm kind of looking forward to the Battlefield pickups.
There's going to be some great loot boxes out there.
Loot boxes. Looking for some London Bridge Trading Company armor. What you got?
I mean, it's going to be, if you've ever played the Division 2, where you can roll people for loot and take them out. And like I've done that, where I've taken somebody out who was clearly a money player and was dumping money into the game, and I've never spent a dime on it.
Oh, yeah.
And because I got it when it was free on Xbox Gold, and I'll just take them out because I'm better than them, and then immediately be like, all right, what do you have? I'll take this.
Loot box. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
like all you are is a loot drop. If you're not training, if you're not preparing, if you're not getting yourself into a position where you know your gear, you can maintain it, you know how to use it. And most importantly, what's going to happen is, remember, if that occurs, if what he's talking about occurs, moving food, moving water, doing those things is going to get very, very hard.
Yep.
And when that happens, it's not necessarily going to stop completely, because even in like hardcore war zones now in the third world, we can still see that goods still move. It's just really hard to do, which makes them very expensive and hard to obtain. If you're not already getting that stuff, you're setting yourself up to fail badly.
What's the Jordan Peterson quote about a harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very dangerous man that has under voluntary control.
Exactly.
Yep. Exactly.
All right, throw your plugs. Let's go.
Buy Derica's book.
Link in the description.
And I'm gonna go ahead of Andrew here on the whole beard stuff, because he's got an actual deal going. I don't, but I picked up the stuff from a local manufacturer called Wandering Sheep Beard Care, and their beard balm comes in a tube. So instead of having to put it on your hands and rub it on, you can just literally put it directly on your beard and then rub it in.
I got homemade stuff.
I like this one's called Viking. Definitely smells of oud wood. You can get they have a website, wanderingsheepbeardcare.com, or check them out on Facebook and Instagram, Wandering Sheep Beard Care. They're not giving me anything for it. I just like their stuff.
Yep. That's the same with Spirit of Resistance. The cool new patch. Keep your rifle by your side. How fucking beautiful is that patch, you guys?
Yeah. They also make it as a t-shirt.
Yes.
You can get it as a t-shirt as well. Also, if you want to care for your beard like a Viking, and of course my fellow brand Vikings include Hafthor Bjornsson, the Mountain, among others. They have super cool commercials too that I absolutely love to watch. They're freaking great and hilarious. But if you want to care for your beard like a Viking, like I do, you can go to thebrandstruggle.com.
Struggle.
Yes, thebeardstruggle.com. Use code InkedAnarchist15. I recommend, of their Viking scents, I recommend the Gold series because it has the best scents, in my opinion. Although the silver is not bad, but I usually go for Gold. Also, if you really like luxury watches, you really like really nice sunglasses, check out shopvalerio.com. Use code InkedAnarchist25 there. Get 25% off of your stuff. They have fantastic sunglasses. The ones that I got from them are actually inspired by Django Unchained and the sunglasses he wears when he blows the house up in Django. They look fantastic. I love them. They have lots of other stuff. They have lots of cool watches that are reminiscent of lots of much higher end watches. And it is super cool and totally worth it. Again, Inked Anarchist 25 at shopvalerio.com or Inked Anarchist 15 on beardstruggle.com. And you can save yourself money, support me, and get some cool shit out of it. Also, don't forget RTA Magazine. I'm plugging them as well.
Yes. Dharma is kicking ass on that one. The latest edition just dropped. That is also linked in the description. So, on that note, anything else? Anything else? Anything else?
I got nothing.
Good.
Nope.
Going, gone. We'll catch you on the next one.
Yep.
Peace.
Later.
Come on. End recording. Come on. There you go. Did not stop recording.
I don't think it's stopped.
We're still recording.
We're still going. Still going.